Hi everybody, it's Wednesday, which means I'm back on YouTube talking about book stuff. This week I'm going to talk about hiring and working with freelancers. Um, if you're going to self-publish your book, or if you want to make a really good impression when you submit your manuscripts to agents because you want to traditionally publish your book, you may need, or will definitely need, to hire freelancers at some point. A freelance editor is probably someone you're going to hire. If you're going to self-publish an entire book soup to nuts, you're going to have to hire an editor, you're going to have to hire a designer, you're going to have to hire a proofreader, and probably a marketing team too, because it is a business. So a question that I get a lot is, how do I find a good freelancer? How do I know what to expect to pay? How do I set a budget for freelance work on my book? How do I know if a freelancer is actually who they say they are, if they're any good or not? You know, and I always say it's this, finding a good freelancer is the same thing as finding a good dentist, a good haircut person. Not that we've gotten haircuts this year. I clearly haven't, but a good professional of any type, whether it's to work on your car, your hair, your teeth, your book. You don't just hire the first person that you see with their shingle out that says, I fix cars, I fix books, I fix teeth, I fix hair. You vet those people a little bit. You either, ask other people, hey, have you hired this person? Have you used this person for anything before? Are they any good? Are they terrible? Now we have Yelp reviews and Google reviews, and you can kind of tell if somebody's made somebody mad at some point. You want to make sure that, your dentist actually has a degree in dentistry. Well, it's the same way with editing and proofreading and design and copy editing and all of the things that you could use a freelancer for on your book. You want to make sure that the person is who they say they are. You want to make sure that they actually can do a good job for you. And whenever you hire a freelancer, you should treat it like hiring any professional. You should have a conversation with that person, and that can happen however is comfortable for you. Do you want to Zoom chat with that person? Do you want to talk on the phone? Do you just want to do everything over email? However that is. I work with people in all different ways. However they prefer to communicate is how I communicate with them. But you need to have a conversation, and you need to ask them questions. You need to ask them what they've worked on before that might be like your book. You need to ask them if they have a degree. You need to ask them how long they've been doing this. And they need to be able to show pretty concrete examples. And these days, with the internet, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because you can make yourself look more important and more skilled than you actually are, but you can also tell pretty quickly if somebody is not legitimate too. So it can go either way. Now, take somebody like me. I have been working in books and publishing since the year 2000. I started working in legal publishing before I was even in college in 1998. You can go and you can Google me, and you can find my LinkedIn, and you can find my Twitter, and you can find my website, and I put my whole resume on my website so you can see what I've done. And there's lots of places where you can look to find an editor, and that can help you assess credibility as well. I used to be a member of the EFA. To my shame, I am not anymore. But I used to be, and the EFA, which I will leave a link to the EFA website in the video here, is a great source to look for freelancers. And the other thing the EFA does really well is they have a chart on their website, which is a chart of rates. These are the rates that you might expect to pay when you hire a freelancer, whether you're hiring a development editor, a copy editor, a proofreader. We talked about all these different parts of the editing process in my last video. In case you don't know what DE, CE, and proofreading are, you can go back and watch that one. If you don't have any idea, what does a development edit cost? And you'll go out and you'll look at that EFA rate chart, and if you're like most people, you'll do one of those because it seems really high. But let me explain to you something about what goes into the freelancer's hourly rate. We have to cover all our own self-employment tax. We have to cover our own health care. We have to cover our own overhead. If we were an employee of a company and we were being provided an office space and a printer, and we were getting, cushy health benefits and all of those things, we would be, a $25 or a $35 an hour employee. But because we're a freelancer, you're talking $45, $55, $60 an hour. My rates, I have always indexed my rates to the EFA's rates. Now, my rates personally are a little bit lower than the EFA's rates because I live in a region where I have a lower cost of living. So I don't have to charge East Coast rates. I can charge Midwest rates. So my rates are a little bit lower than what you'll see on the EFA website. But that is literally just me, and that is a personal decision. And every freelancer you work with is probably going to do something different. Now, I will say this, though. If you find somebody and they're willing to work for too cheap, you have to wonder about that too. Used to go, this old greasy spoon somewhere, and they had a sign up and it said, good, fast, or cheap, pick two. That's the same way in the freelance world. If you expect a quick turn on a job, there's probably a premium price on that. If you want a good job, you have to invest the money in getting a good job done. And so freelancers have to be paid fairly. And also, you do have to pay your freelancers. If you go to a restaurant and order a steak dinner, eat the whole thing, and then walk out the front door without paying, that's called theft. It's the same way with a freelancer. If I do a complete project for you and then you decide not to pay me, that's theft of my labor. That's really not a right thing to do. Now, luckily, most people have more sense than to try to do that. But some people don't. Unfortunately, I get about one person a year who tries, for whatever reason, not to pay me. I'm lucky in that I have collected on all of my accounts in the 10 years that I have been a full-time freelancer. But if you ask any freelancer what it's like trying to get paid sometimes, that's one of the biggest challenges of being a full-time freelancer. The other thing that people, I think, have a misperception of is this your real job? Yes, it is my real job. Yes, it is. I don't do this on the side. I don't do this nights and weekends for extra pen money. This is my job. This is my career. This is my vocation. This is all I do. All I do is write and edit. That's it. So if you stiff me on a $1,500 job, that wasn't my mad money. That was my bill money. So don't do that to your freelancers. Pay them fairly and pay them on time. And I will step off my soapbox about that. But you should go in prepared. If you're, considering a freelancer, ask them to show you books that are like yours. If you're a mystery writer, you want somebody who's worked on a couple of mysteries. Now, there's a fair amount of elitism in this business that I'm not a fan of. I am all for giving new people a shot and working. I'm not one of those people who's like, well, you have to have 50 best-selling titles in your credentials list before I'll even talk to you. That's bogus. You're not going to get the best people that way. You will get good people that way, sure, but you also probably won't be able to get on that person's calendar either. You want somebody who has experience in editing. If you get somebody who's just right out of college, they're probably going to charge you less. I know young editors who are excellent editors. It's not really an age thing. It's an aptitude thing, and it's an experience thing, and it's an education thing. I'm not elitist about education either. I went to a state school. Now, I had the grades to get into just about any school I wanted to, but I only had the money to go to a state school. So, don't get snooty about that kind of thing, too. Snootiness doesn't help, is what I'm saying. But you do need to vet people, and you need to vet them thoroughly. A site that's good for that, if you really want to be able to see all in one page, like these are the books they've worked on, this is who they are, this is what they do, is Readsy, and I'll put a link to that here too. Readsy actually makes freelancers verify. You're a verified account. You send them links to books that you have worked on to prove that you're actually a legitimate person. Now, again, could someone lie? Sure. But karma comes for us all. Lying doesn't benefit anybody. Again, I think it's probably easier now than ever to try to figure out if a person is good or not. If you are considering, one thing that I have seen a fair amount of, and I've seen it recently, and this is alarming to me, is companies who put themselves out there as full service companies for the self-publisher. And they promise you the moon, the sun, and the stars, and they take a whole lot of money, but they don't do the work. And there are horror stories, and there are plenty of companies out there who unfortunately are still doing that. And a good way to look up and see if the company that you're thinking about working with is a good one is ALLI, the Alliance for something, 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 something. I'll put the link in the video. It's the Alliance of Independent Publishers, and they actually have a naughty list that they keep, and they will tell you, no go, this is bad. It's kind of like the Better Business Bureau of independent publishing service providers, in a way. They'll tell you if a company is scammy or not, and there are, unfortunately, scammy companies out there. As with most things in this business, you always want to do your homework. Anybody that you are going to give money to work on your book, you need to do the legwork of going out online and vetting them as thoroughly as you can. Look them up in Literary Marketplace, check them out with Ally. If you're in writers groups and different things already, ask your friends, hey, I'm looking for somebody to edit my book. It's finally ready to edit. Do you have anybody you know who's good? Have you used anybody? Have you heard of anybody who was a bad egg that I shouldn't work with? And a lot of times people will tell you. And again, it's a conversation. If you find somebody who you think might be a good editor for your work, just have a talk with them and ask them all your questions. And if they're worth their salt, they'll answer every question you answer. The other thing that you can do is if you're hesitant about, working with an editor, especially maybe somebody who's a younger editor just starting out and maybe they don't have as much experience as somebody like me who's got 20 years, ask for a sample edit. Most of us will do a sample edit for you, 5-10 pages, and that gives you a feel for how we work, the kind of things we point out. The other thing too, when I start to work on a book is I always ask my author, what do you think? What do you think you need help with? And a lot of times I'll find that what the author tells me they're concerned about is dead on. Your instincts are correct. Yeah, you know what? That one part in the middle, it is dragging. See, my job as a developmental editor is to help you, is to diagnose those things. I just did a writing workshop with Susan Jane Gilman, and she said that, we are doctors, we're not critics. And I feel like that's the point of a developmental editor. I'm a doctor, I'm not a critic. I'm not here to tell you that you stink and your book is bad and you should crawl in a hole and never write again. I'm here to take your book and tell you, okay, well, these parts maybe are broken, but here's how you might want to fix them. And I'll give you 2, 3, 4, 5 options, But it has to feel good to you as the writer because it's your book and your name is going on it. So, in sum, when you come to the point where you are ready to hire a freelance anything to work on your book, most likely an editor, that's where you should start. Go to ACES, it's the American Copy Editors Society. Go to the EFA.org, go to ReadSee, go to LinkedIn, go to Twitter. Pull those resources, and I'll give you links in the captions here. Talk to your friends in your writing groups and see if they've worked with any editors. When you do narrow down editing candidates who you think might be good, interview them just like you would interview any service professional. Vet them just like you would interview any service professional. And then, if you pick one and you make an agreement to work with them and you decide, okay, I'm going to hire you, whatever, meet their payment terms and be fair about that. Pay them timely, pay them fairly. Because they are professionals just like everybody else, just like your dentist or your mechanic or your hairstylist. And they have bills too and commitments too. And feeling like you can, pay them late or not pay them at all is not cool, man. So yeah, again, look for them just like you would look for somebody to work on your car if your car is really important to you. If your hair is really important to you, you're not going to let just anybody cut it. Well, your book is really important to you, so you're not going to just let anybody work on it. And like I said, I'm going to drop some links in the caption here of really good places where you can look for editors. As usual, if you have questions about any of this stuff, please, I'm not kidding, either email me or tweet me or leave me a comment here on my YouTube. I love talking about this stuff, clearly, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And my favorite thing is if I don't know the answer to a question, I'll help you find the answer to a question, because usually it's just a couple clicks away. As usual, thanks for watching and have a great week, and I will see you next time.